All right, everybody, here we go. This is my post-market wrap-up for this Monday, December 17th, 2018. I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about here. I'm going to try to put some of this into perspective, try to make some sense of this. Let's talk. All right. First of all, stocks were extremely volatile today. At one point, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was almost positive. The S&P 500 was positive, and Nasdaq was positive. However, this all reversed intraday after being all over the place. As a matter of fact, the Dow at one point was down nearly 700 points. The Dow Jones Industrial Average did finish down about 500 points. Cryptos caught a bid all day. Gold and silver caught a bid all day. Dollar weaker. Bond market stabilizing. A lot of stuff here. Now on Sunday, just yesterday, I explained to you that we were going to continue to see this volatility in the market, so I know for a fact that you are not surprised about this. But something came out today that we need to talk about. I want to put a little light on so we can make sense of it. So the Bank of International Settlements. I don't know how many of you out here are aware of this institution. This is the central bank of central banks. You know, a lot of people think that the Federal Reserve is the central bank. Some people believe that the Federal Reserve is the only central bank. There are hundreds of central banks all over the world, but they all answer to the Bank of International Settlements. Now, I want to read this for you, and then we're going to talk a little bit. I don't want to get this wrong. All right, let me have the page here. This is a warning today from the Bank for International Settlements. So you ready? Quote, "The pillars of the global financial system are fundamentally unstable and could lead to a frightening," this is their words, I'm not making this up, "could lead to a frightening chain reaction in the next crisis." Now, I understand fully that if you follow this blog, if you have even a few functioning brain cells, you completely understand that the environment we are in is like nothing we have ever seen before in the history of the world. And we could have this world leader or this president or this whoever they might be spewing whatever they want out of their pie holes. And, you know, it's all lies for the most part. It's all a game rigged against you. Okay? And I think you're well aware of that, again, if you follow this blog, if you have just the slightest clue about what's going on. But people seem to think that world leaders have our best interest in mind, governments have our best interest in mind. That's not the case at all. And the world is run by the banks, run by the central banks who answer to the Bank for International Settlements, period. So big warning today. Now, what I want to do here is talk a little further about what we can expect this week. We know we're going to hear from the Fed Wednesday. They're going to make a decision here, a decision. It's already been made with regard to monetary policy. I have explained to you, I believe the Federal Reserve is going to raise the stinking federal funds rate, the shortest end of the curve, 25 basis points, 0.25%. Now, then I believe they're going to sound very dovish. This is priced into the market in my view. All right? And I also explained to you that I think markets are going to respond in a positive way to what comes out of the Fed's mouth. Maybe just for the day or 2 days, I don't know. But all of this is going to correct the fair value no matter what happens. Now, our president and tweeter, again, I support this man. I want him to succeed, damn it. It's the truth. But he keeps sticking his damn foot in his mouth and he can't get it out. I mean, this guy has to understand, he has the bully pulpit. He is the top gun. Seriously. But he sits there tweeting like he's a child. He wants the Federal Reserve to keep their foot to the floor, keep the easy money rolling into this market. I mean, he owns what's going on right now. And there are still some very deluded people out here who believe that this is a setup to bring down the Fed. Well, he's playing into the game. He already got the Fed to kind of capitulate with regard to raising rates. Now he's saying, okay, let's keep the money going. Let's keep suppressing interest rates. Let's keep inflating bubbles. That's what he's saying. Everyone who understands these things and understands how the market has a clear and concise view as to what's going on. But there are some people, a lot, probably most, who have no conception whatsoever how money works, how the central banking system works, and how this whole thing is a charade to fleece the middle class, blow bubbles, blow them up, then deflate, blow them up, then deflate, transfer wealth, transfer wealth. Now, it seems that world central banks are hell-bent with every single one of their world leaders, not just President Trump and the Federal Reserve. And again, people are fixating on this. You got to stop. Break out of whatever box your brain has been put in by whoever's telling you how it works. It's not true. You have to understand, every world leader is in bed with their central bank. It's incredible. We've never seen anything like this before. So you have to know something very dark is under this. We have closed the window, in my opinion, to avert a full-on meltdown like we have never seen before. Now, that's very sad. And this is what I want to talk about as well. There was a time, not too long ago, as a matter of fact, when President Trump took office, where we could have sidestepped this for the most part. And President Trump, then candidate Trump, was so aware of this. He was so on top of it, and this is why he earned my vote. You remember what he did? Thundered against the Fed, thundered against artificially suppressed interest rates. He explained that the Fed was behind the curve. I sincerely believe this, people, and I know this is going to sound like some kind of bizarre conspiracy, but I believe that when a guy like, let's say, President Trump, or any president for that matter, before they get into the Oval Office there, they have a conception of how this whole thing works. Then they're sat down and they're literally kind of shown how it works. Maybe they're not too clear on it, but if you understand, it just seems a little off to me that President Trump made a 180-degree turn with regard to the Federal Reserve, wanting them to keep easy money. And it's not just President Trump, it's other world leaders too that did the same thing. So you got to realize that something else is going on. Now, I want you to sit down for a moment and think about what I'm about to say, because I don't think anyone else has talked about this ever. But I'm going to talk about it here. If you follow this blog, you recall when President Trump won the election, this guy sitting in front of you, I am on public record stating, these are my words, this is a game changer and stocks are going to vault higher. I was on Greg Hunter's show saying the same thing. I was interviewed and you name it. I'm on record with this. So if I knew that stocks were going to vault higher under President Trump, pro-business guy, it was so simple to see compared to the last guy, completely anti-business, Obama, okay? A lot of other people knew the same thing. So what happened here was stocks vaulted higher underneath President Trump's leadership, but right there was a missed opportunity, and I mean a missed opportunity, either deliberate or out of greed. All right, now let me put a little light on that too. Stocks were vaulting higher as soon as this guy, I mean, of course, futures went, I think, 800 points down when he actually won the election. Then it reversed. Took a lot of people by surprise. People like Mark Cuban, the retard, were thinking that this whole market was going to collapse, and he was out saying it. And I'm out, battling Cuban on Twitter, saying, how wrong he was going to be. He got it completely wrong. Well, I was right. Cuban was wrong. Okay, imbecile, whatever. He's part of the COD, I guess, or in a delusional state. Let's not talk about Cuban anymore. So the missed opportunity here, and this is where I have to sit back and say what happened. When stocks were vaulting higher, and candidate Trump, now president, was well aware that the Fed was behind the curve and should have been raising rates. If President Trump would have teamed up with his then chosen Fed Chair Powell and said, let's normalize this market so the middle class doesn't get absolutely destroyed, what would have happened? Okay, the Fed would have started hiking rates, incrementally, a little faster. Stocks would not have gone up as much as they did since President Trump's election, but the market would have been real. The market would have still gone up higher. So people would have done well. The corporate CEOs, the banks, they all would have done well. But then I think greed kicked in, and then something or someone or some entity got to President Trump and said, hold on a minute, let's keep this easy money going. We need more money. We need to become richer here because the middle class is never allowed to keep their wealth. We're going to fleece them on a grand scale, President Trump, and you are going to play right along with it. That's what I think happened here because there was a missed opportunity of epic, and if I did not say it, epic proportions. We all understand, and I said publicly, that the market was going to vault higher under this president. That's when candidate Trump, what was coming out of his mouth, should have started to be implemented. Normalized rates at that particular time. But it didn't happen. Greed set in. Greed by the corporations, greed by the special interests who got to our president and said, let's keep inflating this bubble. I believe that our president wanted to make a difference and at one time really stood behind the middle class and didn't want to see people suffer. But what he's doing now, the tweeter-in-chief tweeting, let's, to the Federal Reserve, keep the easy money pouring into this market, it's only going to destroy the middle class. It's not going to end the Federal Reserve, other world central banks, the Bank of International Settlements, they're all still going to be there. And I'll tell you something else. If this market does what it looks like it's continuing to do, President Trump will be a one-term president. The Fed's still going to stand, even if he's there for 2 years. The Fed's not going anywhere. Neither are the other world central banks or the Bank for International Settlements. So get your head out of that mode. And whoever's promoting that thing does not understand how these markets work at all. Zero. And that's a shame. But I want you to understand it. Number one, understand the missed opportunity here. And it's so big, I can't tell you. And that really gets to me a little bit. We could have had a much more normal market right now than we have now. But something happened. Greed kicked in here. We have now the biggest bubble in the stock market we have ever had, being inflated on the back of the biggest debt bubble that has ever been inflated in the history of humanity by exponents. There's nothing like it. It's a financial freaking Frankenstein. And the middle class, as always, is going to pay for this in such a way that you just have to say something else has to be going on. Because world leaders can't be that stupid. They're playing the game for a reason. And you know what it is. It's the fleecing of the middle class that occurs every X amount of years, 10 or a 15-year cycle. We had 2008. Before that, we had the dot-com bubble. You can look at the intervals. Go back. These intervals are kind of constant, more or less. So we're here now. And if this is it, if this is the beginning of a major correction, because that's the job of these markets, well, you can only understand what's going to happen here to the middle class. And it didn't have to happen. None of this had to happen. It all started when the Federal Reserve stepped in here. Let me back up a moment. The 2008 meltdown there, when the credit markets froze, something needed to be done or we would have ended up sincerely in a Mad Max scenario. That quantitative easing one just to free up the credit markets, that had to happen. Otherwise, you would not have had access to your cash. Zero. No, you went to your bank, gone. No cash there, period. Banks, business lending, over. Everything would have stopped. Economy comes to a standstill. Great Depression, period. Now, that's where the Fed should have stopped once they unfroze the credit markets, but they didn't do it. They reinflated this bubble like we're in now. A lot of effort has been put into reinflating this bubble. That's why when President Trump got into office, he had to sit down with his bosses, okay? Because, believe me, the president is a mouthpiece. That's it. The Bank of International Settlements, the Wall Street banks, the central banks are running the show. If you don't understand that, if you think it's really the president, kings, queens, or monarchs, go bury your head in the sand somewhere, because that's where you are. That's not what's going on here. And there's something else going on, because our president could have fixed this. He chose not to. And I think not only was it's not really his choice, I don't think. I think he was actually kind of told what he has to do to play the game. because the middle class is going to be the mechanism by which the 1% get even richer than they are in a two-tier society is created. The middle class has been under attack for a very long time. It really got going, recently under Obama, like you have no idea, and now their mission is almost complete here, and that is again to create a two-tier society. The haves, the have-nots, middle class gone, that's it. They've created an environment of sheep. Do you think it's any secret why, again, under Obama, people don't know what bathroom to use anymore? I mean, this is how dumbed down. They don't know what gender they are. You can't just look down. I mean, please, this is where we are right now. And there's a reason for it. The dumbing down of the world, especially here in America, is really nearly complete. And that's how you know that the rest of this is going to start to go really, really soon. People are going to be running around in the streets, not understanding at all what's happening around them, because they're being misled on a grand scale. And again, the middle class is never allowed to keep their wealth. It's a fleecing mechanism, period. Anyway, I hope this has made sense to you. If it has, please share this video. Get it out here. Let people understand what's actually happening, because I tell you, people, with this warning now from the Bank of International Settlements, it's pretty spooky. With that said, let's see how it plays out. See you tomorrow morning.